there's something about the music, there's something about the songs. And so
Yeah.
I think we're tapping into something that really has a potential to make wide impact
Mm-hmm.
amongst younger demographics, which is our goal, but amongst every age, because
Yeah.
amongst every culture, because singing
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter if you don't understand my language of English, even you can sense the music. I can sense the music, in a
Yeah.
language I can't understand, whatever. And so music speaks. And so I think for us, like, it's really about the music.
Yeah.
Stories have to be excellent. Doesn't matter how good your music is. If your story's horrible, no one cares.
All right. Want to welcome everybody to another episode of Own the Exit. We're excited to have my good friend in studio today, Justin Rizzo. I'm Caleb, your co-host.
Aaron, your co-host. We got Justin Rizzo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Excited.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah. Known Justin for, I don't know, about 10 years, like that. And in that time, I know you've started a successful online coaching business, as well as a production company that does live stage and film production, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to dive right in. Would love to just tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey. How'd you get started?
Yeah. I mean, I joke with people, my first failed business was a greeting cards business when I was 12.
Yeah.
My dad was a pastor. And so I had this great idea of like printing out on just, 8.5 by 11 paper, slap that thing in half, print it on my computer at home, and sell greeting cards.
Nice.
And I didn't sell any of them. So we went out of business pretty quick. But I always had this desire in my heart to kind of like multiply and replicate what I was doing.
Yeah.
So ever since I was young, I remember just like, I hated school because I couldn't see like a purpose in it, like in like now, like multiplying for me, like doing something for me now. I didn't have that like, long game perspective of like, oh, learn this so I can, whatever. I just wanted to like be doing things and creating things and, selling things. And so my dad was a pastor. So I grew up kind of doing music and like worship ministry. And so singing, songwriting, all that kind of stuff. And then, I moved here to Kansas City about 18 years ago, joined staff at a church as a worship pastor. But about 6 years after I moved here, I really felt in my heart that I wanted to start writing and producing films and musicals, which was not my dream ever. Like I was more of a, worship songwriter type of guy. So I loved creativity in that realm, but kind of felt this in my heart, like start doing musicals and stage films and all these sorts of things about maybe 10, 13 years ago. And so that's been quite the journey.
Yes.
What's the overlap there of worship music or that side of it, then adding in kind of the stage performance and stuff? Like how does that, I guess, go together,
Yeah, I mean, I was joking with a songwriter friend recently. When you write a song like for the church or even a singer-songwriter song about, your boyfriend who broke up with you or whatever it is, there's like kind of limitations. Like you have lyrics, you have melodies to communicate how horrible this person is who broke your heart or how awesome God is and you want to worship him, right? But when you get into like, stage and like film, you can like, kill a character. You can have lights, you can have like fog machines, you can have acting, you can have all the different sound effects.
Yeah.
So the creative like opportunity goes like so much higher. So, and I still love, doing songwriting and worship and all that kind of stuff, but it just like expands so much when you get into like the stage stuff.
Yeah.
And I can imagine getting into the whole production element of it. There's actually a lot of behind the scenes like skills that are necessary to execute on that, right? So tell us a little bit about how your kind of entrepreneurial mind that, kind of began to bloom at age 12 making greeting cards, right? Tell us a little bit about how kind of that journey, how you developed and how you developed those skills and what are the skills necessary to put on a large scale film or stage production?
Yeah, probably the biggest thing I'd say is learning the value of a team, which that's the crossover between like worship teams at your local church versus a team of like 100 people to create a film. It's a larger scale, but the principles are the same. I think of Patrick Lencioni and his book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, which really impacted me when I read that many years ago, and how trust has to be in your team for everything else to be built upon. So no matter you're leading 2 people or like 100 people on a film set, if they don't trust you, and if you're passive or you just let things slide, let other people kind of dominate the conversation, whatever, and there's not trust, you might pull it off, but it's going to be really, really tough. And so we're on our 3rd film right now, and I've definitely learned like you have to have the trust of your team, and you have to hire people who are way smarter than you and way better than you, but they have to trust you and they have to fall in line with like kind of the vision that you, the values that you set for your film set. But yeah, so building a team, but then not being passive with that team, not just hoping for the best, and like put out fires, have hard conversations. Is probably one of the biggest things.
Yeah.
Yeah, that just seems to apply. Like, I'm just thinking so much for like any entrepreneurial venture, like, or business, like, especially when you're starting something, you know, like having the right team members, you know?
Yeah.
And I think like as the, you know, the leader or, you know, the business owner, like, you know, it's our job to like identify those team members, you know, and if we get that piece wrong, like, you know, it's like they say, like, you know, what would you rather have, the perfect product or the perfect team? And the answer is the team.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's kind of going along with what you said, like it's so important, but having a team of 100 people though, or something like that seems like a lot to manage and build for these productions.
Yeah. What's your, I guess, related to that, what's your, either your process or how do you approach like vetting a team member, you know?
Yeah, but it depends on what role they're coming in as. Like my DP, my director of photography, who's going to be behind the camera, like making my film, is a bit of a higher interview process than an ensemble member who you'll see in the back behind the camera like twice, maybe singing and dancing or whatever. But I think, you know, a good friend of mine who's a business guy here locally told me this years ago. The greatest thing that has helped him have success in his business is relationships.
Yeah.
Not burning bridges, not having your own little world and thinking, I want people who are like me, who think like me, who talk like me. If you're anything outside of that, you're annoying. I don't want to, you know, have to deal with you.
Yeah.
Not having that kind of mindset, but having like open arms and open hands with wisdom, but having like relationships with people. And so as I've been in this for over a decade now, I know a lot of amazing people that their character has been vetted through, you know, doing multiple films together. And so, you know, hiring, not necessarily your friends, but hiring people that you have relationship with and have good history with is always helpful.
Yeah.
You know?
Especially for that, it sounds like you're saying that core group of like management or leadership, like it's even more important, right?
Yeah.
For that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Cool.
Because you already kind of have like pre-established values, relationship, and it's just fun to work with people that you maybe call your friends, right? Like it just makes it a lot more enjoyable.
Yeah, I think for a question I wanted to ask you, like for entrepreneur, like, so some people will like, you know, start a business and maybe they don't even have a lot of passion about it necessarily. It's a means to an end. Like they're like, hey, I want passive income. So I'm going to do this, and there's no romanticism around it. I just, in 5 years, it will equal this, and it's a financial decision. And then I'm going to have this income to, you know, go do what I really want to do. Whereas like, but your journey, it sounds like your entrepreneurial ventures and your passion kind of converge.
Yeah, which I'm really aware of that because I have a lot of friends who are my age that hate their life, they hate their job.
Yeah.
And it's either a 9-to-5 thing that they're working for the man and they get, you know, paid a base paycheck and they hate that, or even they have their own business that they don't like. It just sucks the life out of them. And then so I'm really, really blessed to be able to be a creative, born as a creative into a creative family, have like given myself to these gifts, and the Lord kind of like, there's been some pivots along the way, but it's all been in the realm of creativity. It's never been, hey, take 5 years and push paper at Bank of America, you know, like I'd be like, probably hate my life doing that. So I'm really blessed and really grateful. And all the more for me, I think what that does is it causes me to really want to steward that well, because I don't ever want to take for granted, like, oh, I can just make money doing art, and that I'll always be able to do that. Because you know how many people who can't make a dime with their art? I mean, part of my coaching business, I'm coaching creatives, small towns, big towns, all over the world, doesn't matter, who have these desires to make money. And then they realize, to be a creative, you need to get money on the table to produce your art, you know, for the most part, you know, like there's some, if you're a painter, but you still need to buy your paint, you need to buy your palette, you know, whatever. But doing a film, you know, so we write it and we have the script, we have the songs, and they're like, okay, we're going to film it. We need $250,000 to go out and then like raise those funds. This would be something that's out of my scope of enjoyability, like getting investors and getting donations to make my art isn't my like greatest joy in life. There are people out there who love raising money, you know, it's like they're born, they're salespeople, which I am not. I'd rather be in my writing room, you know, whatever, but largely I'm so blessed to create for a living. And
So this is something that you would do if somebody cut you a check for $1 million and you can just live off that, you would still choose to build and steward and grow this passion that you have.
Absolutely, 100%. We have a kind of a pitch deck vision statement that we come up with for the next 5 years of what is really in our heart to build and to create with these films, distributing the films.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of the creative art that you're producing is faith-based, positive messaging specifically targeted towards a younger generation, right?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about why that is so important to you.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at it, so Disney, we all know Disney, they've done hundreds of films in their lifetime of a company. 7 of the top 20 grossing films that Disney has produced are musicals. Wow. Stories about love and loss that have songs about every 13 and a half minutes,
Yeah.
And we can sit here and name probably all of those. The other 13 top 20 grossing films are Marvel, which they purchased December 31st, 2009. So it's very new to the Disney club.
Yeah.
Mostly musicals, like for the history of the longevity. And so there's something to producing a story about love and loss. Doesn't have to be necessarily from the Bible or whatever. That history shows they love musicals.
Yeah.
They love singing them. They love listening to them on Spotify and Apple Music and just, let it go. Like, why are you listening to that? Because it's some girl who can't control her urges to freeze things. She just inspires me. It's like, what? There's something about the music. There's something about the songs. And so I think we're tapping into something that really has a potential to make wide impact amongst younger demographics, which is our goal, but amongst every age, because amongst every culture, because singing doesn't matter if you don't understand my language of English, even you can sense the music. I can sense the music, in a language I can't understand, whatever. And so music speaks. And so I think for us, like, it's really about the music. Stories have to be excellent. Doesn't matter how good your music is. If your story's horrible, no one cares. So amazing stories, but music and songs that can go viral, that kids can listen to and just get in their brain and meditate on positive virtues, on biblical aspects of who God is. It burns inside of my heart to do that. And I think it's an amazing means of communication.
And moving that from, because I know, I know you well enough to know you started primarily with stage production musicals, which is still a part of, what you do with Firelight Creative.
Yeah.
But then going the film route, being able to put it on a screen, right?
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about why you wanted to transition to putting your art on a screen.
Yeah, I mean, the CDC says that kids between the ages of 8 to 18 spend 7.5 hours a day in front of a screen. And when I saw that stat, I was like, that's a lot of time every single day.
Basically a full-time work week.
Yeah, full-time job. It's just staring at a screen.
Staring at a screen.
And so
what do you do? I stare at a screen.
For real, from 8 to 18. I did it solid. I'm a great employee. But then a second stat that really moved my heart as a Christian was between the ages of 18 to 22, 66% of young adults stopped going to church during that time.
Wow.
And so I think there's a direct correlation to what you're feeding yourself for 8 hours a day from 8 to 18, and then 18 to 22, you make a decision largely based on what you did 8 hours a day for all those years. So their kids are in front of screens. And so kind of our Firelight Creative Productions, our tagline is the new frontier of missions.
Wow.
Is screens.
Wow.
Door to door, sure. Go across the nation, sure. Preach the gospel on the street corner, sure. But for us, it's like these kids are in front of tablets and screens all the time. Let's get quality content in front of their screens to pull on their heartstrings, to think deeper about their life, to ask hard questions about their life, about their family, and ultimately to hopefully encounter the Lord and give their lives to Him.
Wow,
that's so cool, man. There's such a great purpose behind it too, right? Versus just hey, I'm starting a business for the sole purpose of making money. And I just think of a lot of creatives, they're not wired business. They're not oriented to that, So it's but you've kind of combining that, entrepreneurial chip with being a creative. What challenges, I guess, have you experienced in that, with trying to take art but then you're also trying to create a financially viable venture. And, and combining those together, what, I guess, challenges, or has it been easy or?
No, I mean, biggest one, I think I said it earlier about, so we're a nonprofit. production company. And so we're raising donations.
Got
So
it.
we're
Okay.
not so much looking for investors at this time, though that I think is something that we're going to be heading into even into 24 and 25 of saying, hey, come on as an investor.
Yeah.
Let's make a film together. Let's get it to theaters or whatever. So right now it's all been like donation based. So having just dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of meetings, getting told no a lot, sometimes in really, unkind ways by these people. Most people are gracious, but there's been a couple meetings where, it's got a lot of opinions I didn't ask for. And I was like, thank you so much. But I think for the future, figuring out kind of the way to make money with the films. And so we're in a couple of contracts right now, redlining with some distribution companies to actually get these films like to the masses and start seeing some money come in.
Yeah.
Because so far it's only been, I raise the money, all the money goes out, and then we have zero. And then we raise the money, we do another film, it goes out. And so trying to get a model established with these first 3 films under our belt, which we've done 2 in 2 years. This is the 3rd year, we're doing our 3rd one. So I believe that at the end of this year into next year, we're going to begin to see a model start to form. We can pop out films more frequently, get higher paying distribution deals, get a name for yourself at your company who does this, and actually be desirable in this field.
Right.
Because it's not a huge field. Whereas like music, I want to be a country artist. It's like you and everyone else, everyone else in the world. And every country, the thing with music is like any artist who has an iPhone can upload their music to Spotify, like today, thousands of songs are uploaded every single day.
Right.
Whereas a musical, it's like, you want to do what now? And that's going to cost how much? And you have to write the story. The script is 90 pages long. So it's like, if you change something in your script that's 90 pages and the changes are on like page 3, because of the arcs in our story, you're going to have to change things on page 15, 25, 20, like all these different things. Where if your song fits in an 8.5 by 11, you can see it in one glance. Like, oh, I need to change my bridge. So change your bridge. And then you upload your song to Spotify.
Yeah.
So there's a market for it. There's a need for it.
Interesting.
So just creating that financial system and structure to establish it.
Yeah. No, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. And I know you also have an online coaching business, and that business is a little bit more about generating a profit for your family and making money, obviously having a positive impact. So tell us a little bit about how those two kind of play together. Obviously the financial component probably, but talk a little bit about how those two.
Yeah. I mean, the coaching business is much more of a lucrative financial structure where it's like, hey, here's the course I created. Here's the coaching you're going to get for this amount of money. Sign on the dotted line and the money transfers. And then we go to town, And I really enjoy doing that. Like I love just talking to someone who's a worship leader at a church who has a challenge or a problem and helping them, getting the trenches with them and not just staying at an arm's length. Like, cause the reality is in this day and age with TikTok and YouTube, you can find an answer to any problem by Googling it or YouTubing.
Yeah.
But you can't get a human to actually care. That's probably harder in this day and age to get someone to stop the craziness of their life, give you eye contact and say, hey, my team's horrible. My pastor's doing this. I'm horrible. My marriage is in crisis. I need someone to help me. So to be able to step in someone's life and a lot of young people and lead them somewhere, get them out of depression, lead them to, truth that's going to, even I've had clients who, wanted to take their life. And because of things we're talking about, they've now made a complete, pivot where they're loving their life, And so I definitely enjoy the coaching side of what I do for sure.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Cool, man.
Yeah. That really is the positive impact, man. That's amazing.
Yeah. Just kind of like the stage production, but with that coaching piece too, being like you said, the positive side of it, like versus just a business, for the sake of, I mean, all businesses are adding value, I think to an extent, but here where you're really connecting with people and it's financially viable, I think that can be a real challenge, to just seeing different like nonprofits and things, in my experience is trying to make them financially viable. And, they're either going from like large donation to donation but it's tough to figure out like how to merge those, where you can have that impact and you're changing lives but you're also able to support that vision long term. So I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. That's so good. Tell us a little bit about your family.
Yeah. So I am married. Been married for 13 years this June. I have 2 daughters. Liberty is 8 and Adeline is 5. So it's amazing. It's amazing. That's one of the things I love about being self-employed and running my own businesses and doing that is I can make my own schedule. And,
Cool.
we get to travel as a family. I still lead a lot of worship, write songs, have a record label in Franklin, Tennessee that I work with. So I'm able to travel and do that with my family. So it's not like, the starving artist out on the road, like doesn't see their
Right.
wife for, 2 months. And
Yeah.
so just super grateful. And it's amazing.
Yeah. Did you kind of build it, your coaching business, your production company? Did you kind of build those with that in mind? Like, I mean, I know, a lot of the folks that listen to our podcast are entrepreneurs who desired from the very beginning, one of the things that motivated them and inspired them to entrepreneurship was the idea of financial freedom and time freedom, being able to actually control my time rather than letting someone else control it, right? And was that part of, even as you were kind of strategizing on how to build your businesses and product, did that come into play there?
I wish I could say that it did, that this is all my great strategy, but I completely stumbled into this.
Okay.
Like I was content being a church worship pastor for the rest of my life. I didn't see any need to go outside of that. And then things just began to kind of happen. And I was like, what is happening? And then suddenly I'm like not leading worship full time in a church, doing like multiple businesses. And so it was not the plan.
Yeah.
But I'm really grateful.
Yeah.
That happened this way.
Is it more time? Like, would you say that the commitment now, like there's probably more moving parts, you can't just like show up and do what they tell you to do, right?
Right.
You now have to.
Yeah. Someone just asked me about this, about stress level. Like, is it more stressful or less stressful? And I have to say it's less stressful, because when the stress is like all because of something you did or didn't do, because even if one of your employees flakes out or does a bad job on set, ultimately I hired them, so it's on me. Whereas when you're working somewhere else, decisions are being made, things are happening all the time where you're like, why? Like, why are we doing this? It doesn't make sense. And you have to decide, do I like push to try and seek change because I think this is a bad rule or a bad decision? Or do I just like bite the bullet on this one and just do what I'm told? It's like you're constantly like trying to like save face with leaders, but yet be not a passive person. So
less control, right? Less ability to create the framework and the structure.
Yes. So it's a lot less stressful, even though there's more needs financially that I'm sustaining myself now. I'm not getting paid over here, but I wouldn't go back. I love what I do.
It reminds me a little bit of a video that I watched. It's like a Jordan Peterson thing, and he was talking about like how empowering it is to accept that the problems in your life are your fault, right? Like, and it's not exactly what you're saying, but it reminds me of that, because he says, well, and it's actually very liberating, because he tells a story. I can't remember where it's from. I didn't memorize the video, but it was from some kind of book, and this, lady's at a psychiatrist, and she's being, she's sharing all these things that she feels and all these things that she's dealing with and going through and all that kind of stuff. And at the end of it, she says, I really hope that you tell me all of this is my fault. And the psychiatrist is like, why would you want me to tell you that? And her response is, because then I can change it. Because then I can do something about it. It's my fault. And if I learn to own it, then I have the ability to change it. And that's kind of like what you're talking about. It's like, entrepreneurship, there's a stress that comes on us, building businesses and doing all that kind of stuff. But it's all stuff that we actually have the ability to impact, And so it's really cool. Well, with that thought, I want to jump into the exit round. So the exit round is 5 questions, Justin, that we ask every single guest that jumps on the show. And so we're going to start with question number 1. And I know every business podcast, entrepreneur podcast asks this question, and we just want to be trendy. So what's your favorite business book?
I don't know if it's a business book or not, but Real Artists Don't Starve has been one of the most impactful books I've ever read. It's by Jeff Goins. It's for artists, but he talks a lot about the business of your art and wrong mindsets that artists have. They should be poor. They should just work for free. And he just builds this amazing foundation you have to have as an artist. So Real Artists Don't Starve.
That's awesome, man.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Question number 2. And this is just kind of thinking about passive income and entrepreneurs. What percentage of your income currently would you say comes passively versus active earned income?
Probably, I've never actually put a percentage on that. Probably 30-40%, I'd say, if I had to guesstimate.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And the goal is to, grow that to, 100%. But that doesn't mean you'll be out. You're still going to be in there working, because you're one of the few people that's been able to merge their passion with their work.
Yeah.
And so But at the same time, it's cool that you're still creating that passive, that margin,
Yeah.
where that money is still coming in independent of your work. So super cool.
Yeah.
And kind of with that in mind, the next question you may be have an unusual answer for that, because the next question is,
Nervous.
no, what's one thing that you wish you could do more of, but your commitments to your business hold you back?
It's a weird answer for me. I wish I could write more songs
Okay.
and spend less time raising money to produce my song.
Right.
So
The day-to-day of the business.
yeah.
Yeah.
Number 4, if you could go back in time, you're 20-year-old Justin Rizzo, what would you tell yourself back then, advice you'd have, for being an entrepreneur and building this?
Yeah. Learn to pivot better and sooner. Think less, believe more, and don't be scared to pivot. I hated change growing up.
Yeah.
I've gotten better now. I still hate change, but I've gotten better. But learn to pivot.
Come on.
Yeah.
That's good. And last question, what's your strategy for creating time freedom and financial freedom for yourself?
I mean, in my business, my work, it all comes down to the songs I sell, the stories I sell. So write more songs. It's kind of probably a different answer than you've heard.
No, because that
think it's awesome.
that can create royalties and
Yeah.
It's mailbox money.
Yeah.
Oh, super cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks for jumping on the show, Justin.
thanks for
And
having us,
where
guys.
can people find you? You mentioned Firelight Creative,
Yeah.
your coaching.
Yeah, you can go to my website, justinrizzo.com, or follow me on Instagram at justinrizzo.
Awesome.
Great.
Dude, thank you so much
Yeah,
again for
thanks
jumping
for
on the
having me.
show.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.